Hi Kerri, I was hoping you could help me out by looking at this logbook. The girls got concerns that it's a lot of work and um, there's questions over whether the students are getting a huge amount of benefit out of it. Now, um, I think to some extent it's really good, and I think the girls agree with that. It's just the amount that they seem to have to repeat themselves. So I could see when it was originally written, this logbook. You probably remember it from when you've done the work previously. They basically do an observation for caring for babies and toddlers. Then they do 3 reflections, and they do caring for children where there's an observation and then 3 reflections. So it all becomes a bit repetitive. So I can see when it was originally written, it was serving the purpose of making sure that we were achieving the performance criteria of where it lists 3. You've got to do this 3 times, that 3 times. So I was hoping we could, where possible, reduce these down, so not having to reflect 3 times. So potentially I thought that if you could look at it and decide and as to whether there'd be an issue with them doing an observation which acts as 1 and then only having to reflect twice, because then that's 3. As long as where the observation occurs, it's not on the same child as the child that's being reflected upon. So then this observation acts as 1, and all of a sudden these 3 reflections can go down to 2, and that achieves the 3. Obviously there'd need to be some clear instruction that the observation can't be done on the same 2 that you've reflected on. So I thought that was one way, but the other way I was hoping you could have a look at it. So if I bring up mapping here, for example, you can see where we're talking about the 3 here. This is under the unit provide care for children. We've obviously got the logbook, which is serving the purpose because you've got 2, 3 and 5, but also you've got some placement assessment tasks here. I was wondering, in this case, would one of the placement assessment tasks satisfy getting rid of another one of the reflections, because you've got evidence that this is all being achieved in the placement assessment task. So as long as the placement task, I guess, satisfies this, then you could use that for 1. You could use the observation for 1. So in that case, for caring for children, it gets the reflections down to 1. And then you've achieved your 3. I'm hoping you understand what I mean by that. And then that could potentially apply to the other 6 lots of reflections as well. So really they're doing about 18 reflections because there's 6 areas and they reflect 3 times on each. So I'm not sure we're using the number of occurrences that are happening in other tasks to satisfy our 3. We're just automatically saying 3 reflections for each to satisfy the training package where we don't need to. Can you just let us know whether you understand what I'm talking about and whether it's something you're interested in working on for me over the next couple of weeks? Thanks, Kerri. The other thing, Kerri, is this assessment task 7 journal. I'm just not sure what purpose that serves. Normally a journal is to get your reflection skills going, but in the case of this course, they're doing those reflections that was discussed anyway. So I was just wondering whether you could look at whether that's required still. And if it is, should we be trying to do a weekly logbook / journal that then satisfies all these things as well, and then get rid of these reflections altogether? So instead have these reflections built into a structured journal, because this is fairly broad and open. I think that in a lot of cases you're just keeping a jot book and they just wrote some notes on this. So I'm just not sure what the purpose is of this and whether you think that can go. Yeah, the girls aren't all that sold on doing this either unless it's a bit more structured.